Students will now study a series of lessons looking at the issue of control, the role of government, the role of authority, and the comparison in the way in which governments now and then control their people. We'll start the lesson with this quote. Now, obviously, depending upon the sequence in which you do these lessons, it might make sense, or it could be a teaser as to what comes later. Arrangez-vous, s'il vous plaît, dans la structure du système feudal. Now, obviously, if they've studied the feudal system, the penny might drop and the students might be able to actually carry out the instructions here or the orders that are given and arrange themselves into the feudal system. If they haven't already done this, then what you're looking at is an order in French, which of course was the language of the new conquerors, responsible for killing a very popular king, replacing the existing nobility and aristocracy with their own supporters. Remember, William rewarded those men who provided him with soldiers at the Battle of Hastings by rewarding them with land, hence the previous activity they may have done for their homework, the map activity. So that can serve as a prompt, a hook to engage, and then obviously we can explain in more detail. William, Duke of Normandy, was French, and on Christmas Day 1066, riding through a blizzard to Westminster Abbey, he was crowned King of England, supposedly to protect himself from the cold, but also to protect himself from assassination. He wore numerous layers of clothing, which made him look considerably bigger than he actually was, and during the service, upon hearing people cheering outside, the cheers got distorted by the howling of the wind, and he assumed that there was a mob outside wanting to kill him. So consequently he ordered his men to go outside and murder those people in mass numbers. He was certainly living up to his reputation and his nickname, which of course was William the Bastard, because of the way, not only how he ruled, but also to do with his paternity. If you became the leader then of a foreign country just like William, how would you protect yourself and keep control? Now, you can do this as a brainstorm, as a discussion, a Kagan activity, and you could obviously have some people thinking about then and some people thinking about now. William then had 4 ways of which he used to keep control of the newly conquered country. 1, he would build castles. 2, he would reward his friends from France, land in England, as a means of keeping them happy. He would, thirdly, gather as much information as possible, knowledge equals power, through his Doomsday Book. And then finally, he would impose a very rigid system of control on England that put everyone in their place and set about a system of order that obviously he was at the top and he could enforce and control, the feudals. So our objectives today is to look at castles and control. We have our intentions here and our outcomes there. The extension task: are there any examples of continuity between William's method of control and those that I use today? Then the actual task. So the one that we're going to do here is going to be a collective memory activity, having the students work collectively and collaboratively in groups in order to this picture of one of the original castles that William built, a Motte-and-bailey castle. Artificial mounds, wooden castles, temporary structures. Obviously far quicker and far cheaper to build initially than the stone castles that would replace them. Students in their groups are going to come up to the front, see the picture and attempt to reconstruct that picture back in their own groups. The labelling that they are provided with can go on as well if you've chosen to provide those additional resources for them. Obviously what this task does is encourage children to work collaboratively and to think about ways in which they can accurately redraw this representation back on the paper they have. This isn't an art lesson, so what we're looking for here are the key features, but the wider learning here is that activity engendering team building. One strategy that you might want to stop and reflect on and have children consider using later on after they've been through all at least once is to think about dividing up the page into 4 quartiles and talk about top left, top right, bottom right, and have the students then use that terminology to send people up with specific tasks to identify what was in what corner. What then they do is they can compare the pictures that they've drawn with the actual picture that was on the board. Remember, they will want to talk at great length about how their pictures are different, but what you are looking for are the key features. Have they identified those? Once we have an understanding of the key features, we can compare that against maybe modern buildings, and then we do the reflection on how they've actually learnt in that lesson. So a little bit of metacognition there to complete the lesson. And then a final reflection on what we set out to learn.